Welcome to our deep dive, and this time it's all about radical candor. We got a fantastic book by Kim Scott, and it's jam-packed with stories and advice.
Yeah.
But we're going to zero in on those key things that can help you be a better boss, without turning into a robot.
Yeah. What I love is how she uses her own experiences,
Right.
From working with diamond cutters in Moscow to leading these big teams at Google, Apple.
Oh, yeah.
To really build this idea of what radical candor is.
Yeah. Okay, so it's not just theory.
What is it then?
Yeah.
What does radical candor actually mean? Is it just saying whatever pops in your head, no filter?
Well, not exactly. It's more like a balance, right?
Right.
It's about caring about people personally,
Okay.
but also being direct, challenging them directly. Imagine giving feedback that's both kind and clear, even when it's tough. The book argues that those hard conversations that we all try to avoid, they're actually hurting everyone in the long run.
The individual and the team.
You mentioned Moscow. I was glued to that story. What happened there?
So she was trying to hire these diamond cutters in Russia.
Right. Yeah.
And realized just offering more money, it wasn't the answer.
Yeah.
What really mattered was building real relationships, understanding what each person truly needed to feel valued, motivated.
It makes sense. It's not just about the money. It's
Yeah.
about feeling like you matter, right? But how do you do that when you're giving feedback? It's easy to be too harsh or avoid the tough stuff altogether.
Yeah. And that's where the book gives us this framework to avoid those traps. Ruinous empathy, being too nice.
Okay.
Obnoxious aggression, being a jerk.
Yeah.
There's a sweet spot in between where you're supportive and you're direct, and that's where things get good.
The book gets into the details too, right?
Yeah.
That situation behavior impact model for feedback, that seems like it could help anyone, not just bosses.
Oh, for sure. That model is super practical. Instead of just saying, you messed up,
Right.
you describe the situation, the specific behavior, and then the impact it had.
Okay.
Keeps things focused and objective.
Yeah.
Easier for the other person to hear it without feeling attacked.
That's so smart. It takes the emotion out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But let's be real. Sometimes someone's work just isn't good enough.
Right.
How does radical candor deal with that?
It doesn't shy away from it.
Right.
Scott's upfront about letting people go sometimes, but even then, it's about doing it sooner, not later.
Right.
Handling it with compassion and clarity.
Okay.
Delaying just makes it worse for everyone.
Right. That makes sense. But before we get to that point, how do we even build those strong relationships?
Yeah.
I know the book talks about career conversations.
Right.
What are those about?
These are your secret weapon for really getting to know your team.
Okay.
You sit down with someone, and you're not just talking about tasks. It's diving into their life story, their dreams, their 18-month plan. This is how you start aligning what they want with the team's goals and create space for growth.
That's so different from a regular performance review.
Right.
It's actually connecting,
Exactly. And when you understand what motivates someone, you
Yeah.
can give them feedback that really matters.
Okay. I mean, you can't be all sunshine and rainbows as a leader,
Yeah.
right? What about when you're stressed
Mm-hmm.
or dealing with personal stuff? Does the book talk about how that affects a team?
Yeah, it does acknowledge that as a leader, you can't just shut off your emotions.
Right.
Your team will pick up on your mood. So the book suggests being upfront.
Okay.
Let them know what's going on so they don't think your stress is about their work.
That's so practical. It makes me think about bringing your whole self to work. Is that what Scott's saying?
Absolutely. She's all about being authentic, letting your guard down, being vulnerable,
Yeah.
showing you're human too. This creates a safe space for others to do the same,
Right.
which builds trust and openness.
Makes sense, especially now with work and life so blended.
Yeah.
You can't pretend you're always on. But how do you balance being vulnerable with, still being the boss?
It's about finding the right amount of transparency.
Okay.
The book encourages leaders to actively ask for feedback,
Right.
even criticism. It's not about being a pushover. It's about creating a culture where honesty and growth are valued.
Yeah, that takes a lot of self-awareness, right?
Yeah.
And humility. It's easy to get defensive when someone critiques you,
Sure.
especially if they're, below you.
It's definitely a skill.
Okay.
The key is to set clear expectations for feedback.
Okay.
Make it clear that you want to hear different viewpoints. It's not about undermining your authority. It's
Yeah.
about making the best decisions.
Okay, so we talked about relationships, vulnerability, feedback.
Right.
But what about getting things done? Does the book talk about that practical side of leadership?
Oh, it totally does. Scott introduces this thing called the Get Stuff Done wheel, or GSD wheel.
Okay, the GSD wheel.
It's a cycle that emphasizes listening, clarifying, debating, deciding, persuading, executing, and learning.
Wow, that sounds thorough.
Yeah, it's about having a structure for working together.
Right.
Where everyone is heard and ideas are really tested before you put them into action.
I love that. Can we break down that GSD wheel?
Yeah.
Starting with listening, what are the key takeaways there?
It's about going beyond just hearing words and really understanding your team's perspective. You ask clarifying questions, pay attention to their body language, and you create an environment where they feel safe to share their honest thoughts, even concerns.
So it's active listening, but like on a deeper level.
Exactly.
You're not just waiting to talk. You're actually trying to get where they're coming from.
Yeah, for sure.
And then you move on to clarifying.
Right.
What's that about?
So you take all those different perspectives and you start shaping them into the shared understanding of the problem, the goals, the potential solutions.
So it's moving from like, here's what I think to here's what we think together.
Yeah, precisely.
Okay, so you've listened, you've clarified.
Yeah.
Now it's time for debate. How does that work in a radically candid environment? Seems like things could get heated pretty fast.
The key is to encourage respectful disagreement.
Okay.
And challenge ideas, not people. Create a space where people feel comfortable disagreeing.
Right.
Without fear of, getting in trouble.
I can see how that trust we talked about earlier is so important here.
Absolutely. People need to know their contributions are valued, even if they're challenging the status quo.
Okay, so we've listened, clarified, and debated. Now, how do you go from that to actually making a decision?
The book stresses being decisive, but not rushing into things too quickly.
Okay.
You set clear processes for making decisions, you consider different viewpoints, and you set deadlines to avoid getting stuck in analysis paralysis. And once that decision is made, the next hurdle is getting everyone on board, especially those who maybe didn't agree with the final call.
Yeah, I can see how that could be tricky, right? Not everyone's going to be happy with every decision.
Exactly.
No matter how good your intentions are.
And that's where persuasion comes in.
Okay.
It's about explaining the why behind the decision clearly.
Right.
Addressing those concerns and building genuine buy-in.
Sounds like it takes a lot of empathy. Really understanding why someone might be resisting.
You got it. It's about acknowledging those different viewpoints and making people feel heard.
Yeah.
Even if their idea didn't win out.
So once everyone's on the same page, then it's time to execute.
That's right. And that's where clear expectations come in.
Okay.
Resources, support. You got to set realistic deadlines, monitor progress, and deal with any roadblocks that come up.
It's like a balance between giving people ownership, but also making sure things are on track.
Right. You nailed it. Empowering your team, but giving them the guidance they need.
Okay, so we've listened, clarified, debated, decided, persuaded, and executed. What's the last part of the GSD wheel?
Learning. This is where you step back and look at what worked, what could be better, and how you can use those lessons for next time. It's about creating a culture of continuous learning.
Right. It's easy to just check things off the list and move on.
Yeah.
But making time to reflect, that's how you actually grow.
Absolutely. It's about embracing feedback, good and bad, and using it to get better.
I love that. This GSD wheel seems like a really powerful tool.
Yeah.
Not just for getting stuff done, but for creating a more engaged, collaborative work environment.
Definitely. It reminds us that great results come from using the collective intelligence of the team and treating them like valued partners, not just people who take orders.
Speaking of connecting with your team, I know the book talks about career conversations.
Right.
Can you remind me what those are about again?
These are like structured conversations to help you understand your team on a deeper level.
Okay.
It's not just about their tasks or performance, it's about their aspirations, motivations, their development goals.
That's so much more meaningful than like a typical performance review.
For sure.
It's like you're actually taking the time to get what makes each person tick.
Yeah, these conversations explore someone's background, their dreams for the future, and what they want to achieve in the next 18 months.
It's like co-creating a roadmap for their career, and I bet it makes them feel so much more valued.
Absolutely. When you show genuine interest in someone's growth, it creates loyalty and commitment that you just can't get from a transactional relationship.
I love that.
Yeah.
So what does a career conversation actually look like?
Okay, so Scott suggests a 3-part structure.
Okay.
The first part focuses on their life story.
Interesting.
It's all about inviting them to share their journey, starting from childhood, highlighting key decisions.
Wow, that's deep.
Yeah, and the experiences that shaped who they are today.
It's like asking, what brought you to this point?
Exactly.
Okay, so you've explored their past. What's next?
The second stage is all about their dreams. Here's where you tap into their passions, understand what truly motivates them, ask about their long-term goals, their vision for their career,
Right.
and what they ultimately hope to achieve.
This sounds so powerful. Like you're fostering a sense of possibility, helping them see beyond their current role.
Absolutely.
And envision a future where they can truly thrive.
You nailed it. Creating a space where they can express their ambitions, without feeling limited.
Okay, so you've explored their past and their dreams.
Right.
What's the last stage of the conversation?
The final stage is all about action.
Okay.
This is where you discuss their 18-month plan, brainstorm steps they can take to move towards those dreams.
It's like bringing those dreams down to earth.
Yeah.
Making them real with a plan.
Exactly. You're helping them find opportunities for growth, whether it's in their current role or exploring new possibilities within the company.
These career conversations, they're not just for the employee, are they? It seems like it strengthens the bond between them and the company.
Totally. It's showing a real investment in their development.
Right.
Creating a culture where they feel valued.
It makes me think about how important it is to adapt, In today's world, people want more than just a paycheck.
Right.
They want to feel like they're part of something meaningful.
For sure.
That their work is helping them grow.
And career conversations tap right into that.
Yeah.
It's a win-win.
Now, let's talk about something that can be tough, giving feedback.
Yeah.
Especially when it's negative. I think a lot of people, myself included, we tend to avoid those conversations.
Yeah, it's definitely not easy.
Right.
But the book stresses being direct and clear while still showing that you care. It's about feedback that's specific, actionable, focused on getting better, not attacking the person.
It's about separating the issue from the individual.
Oh,
right?
Exactly.
Like this specific thing needs to change, not you are a bad person.
Yeah, it's about addressing the behavior, the work itself, not making it personal.
But even with good intentions, it can be hard to deliver that kind of feedback. What about the tone, the timing? Any tips on that?
The book suggests giving feedback quickly while it's still fresh.
Okay.
Use a calm and respectful tone. Avoid blaming language.
Right.
Or personal attacks.
It's about being timely, but also thinking about the impact your words will have.
Right.
Clear and direct, but also compassionate.
Exactly. It's about having those tough talks in a way that keeps the relationship strong.
Yeah.
And keeps that mutual respect.
That feels crucial for building trust and openness.
Absolutely.
If people are afraid to speak up, share their honest feedback, it can really hold things back.
It can, and it all starts with how leaders act.
So let's say you need to give someone critical feedback. Are there specific techniques the book recommends?
One helpful technique is the situation behavior impact model.
Okay.
You describe the situation, the specific behavior, and then explain the impact of that behavior.
It's like you're giving them a clear roadmap for how to improve.
Exactly.
Okay.
Concrete examples, actionable steps, not just vague statements.
This seems helpful for both sides, the giver and the receiver. It's just the conversation focused.
It does, and it takes out some of that emotional charge that can often derail these conversations.
I know the book talks about the abrasive trap. Can you explain that?
So the abrasive trap is this double standard that women often face.
Okay.
Qualities like being assertive, direct, which are good things in men, are sometimes seen as aggressive or abrasive in women.
Wow, that's not fair.
It's a classic example of unconscious bias.
Yeah.
And it can really hurt women's careers, limiting their opportunities.
It makes me think about how important it is to be aware of our own biases and make sure we're judging people fairly.
That's crucial.
Not based on stereotypes.
Creating a truly fair workplace takes constant work and a willingness to challenge ourselves.
So how can leaders avoid falling into this abrasive trap?
The book has a few suggestions. First, be careful with your language.
Okay.
Avoid words or phrases that could be interpreted differently based on gender.
It's about choosing your words carefully.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Thinking about how they might be heard.
Second, give specific examples when you're giving feedback.
Right.
This helps avoid those vague statements that can be easily misinterpreted.
So instead of saying, be more assertive,
you
might say, in that meeting, you didn't speak up, when your idea was challenged.
Exactly.
Next time, I'd like to see you advocate for your perspective.
And finally, advocate for a more inclusive workplace overall.
That's so important.
It's not enough to just address individual biases.
Right.
We need a culture where everyone feels valued, respected, no matter their gender.
This whole conversation about feedback and bias, it makes me think about creating a psychologically safe environment. What are the key things for building that kind of safety in a team?
Psychological safety is about creating a space where people feel confident that their ideas will be valued, even if they make mistakes or disagree with the majority.
It's about feeling comfortable speaking up. Right.
Exactly.
Without being afraid of getting in trouble or judged.
It's about trust, respect, and open communication.
And that kind of environment, it seems crucial for innovation.
It is.
If people are afraid to take risks, share their ideas, it can really stifle creativity.
You're absolutely right. Psychological safety is the foundation for a thriving, innovative workplace.
How can leaders create that sense of safety?
One of the biggest things is to actively ask for feedback. Especially from those who might have a different opinion.
It's about showing you value those different perspectives, that you're open to being challenged.
Exactly. You want a culture where everyone feels like they can contribute, no matter their position.
It also makes me think about being humble, acknowledging what you don't know, showing your team that you don't have all the answers.
Absolutely. Humility is so important for a leader.
Especially for building that radical candor.
Exactly.
So for a leader who wants to create a more radically candid environment, are there specific types of meetings the book recommends?
One interesting idea is skip-level meetings.
SIP-level meetings, what are those?
So a manager meets with their direct reports, essentially skipping a level in the hierarchy.
That's interesting. What's the point of that?
It's a great way to get a feel for the organization from a different angle. You get insights from those further down the chain. Feedback on leadership, and maybe spot issues that aren't coming up through regular channels.
It's like a direct line of communication to those who might not feel comfortable speaking up otherwise.
Exactly.
I bet it can help identify blind spots, too.
Oh, for sure.
It's easy to get stuck in your own perspective and miss what's happening on the ground.
Skip-level meetings can be a great reality check.
So for a leader who wants to try skip-level meetings, any tips for making them effective?
The most important thing is to create a safe space where people feel comfortable sharing honestly. Emphasize that this is about learning and getting better, not complaining or undermining anyone.
So setting clear expectations for the conversation. Making sure feedback is constructive and respectful.
Exactly. It's about open communication and continuous improvement.
This brings us back to that idea of continuous learning. Which seems like a big theme in the book.
It is. It's about creating a space where people feel comfortable taking risks, experimenting, learning from mistakes.
It's about seeing failure as a learning opportunity.
Absolutely.
Not a sign of weakness.
It's about changing the way we think about mistakes. Seeing them as steps on the road to success.
And that kind of environment requires trust.
It does.
Psychological safety.
Yes.
People need to feel like they won't be punished for trying new things. Even if they don't work out.
It's about creating a culture of support. Where people feel encouraged to step outside their comfort zone.
This makes me think about celebrating those small wins along the way. It's not just about the big goals. It's about recognizing the effort and progress.
For sure.
Even if things aren't perfect.
Celebrating small wins boosts morale, keeps everyone motivated. It reinforces the idea that learning and growing is an ongoing process.
It's about always getting better together.
Exactly. And that's one of the most powerful things a leader can do.
This has been so insightful. We've covered so much, from feedback to relationships to leadership.
It's been great.
As we wrap up this part of the deep dive, any final thoughts for our listener?
I think what's important to remember is that radical candor isn't a set of rules. It's a way of leading. It's about building a workplace where people feel seen, valued, and challenged to do their best.
It's about trust, transparency, and growth, both for the individual and the organization.
Absolutely. It's about remembering the human side of leadership.
And recognizing that people aren't just resources. They're valuable assets with unique talents and dreams.
This reminds me of what you said earlier, treating people like partners. Not just subordinates.
That's a powerful shift in mindset.
It creates shared ownership, accountability.
Exactly. And that's where the real magic happens.
So we've talked about a lot in this deep dive on radical candor. Relationships, feedback, leadership, so much. As we wrap up, any final thoughts for our listener?
You know, what really strikes me about this whole radical candor thing is that it's not like a cookie-cutter approach,
Right.
It's more like a framework that helps us be more aware, more intentional,
Yeah.
and just more human in how we interact with others.
I think that's what resonated with me, too. It's not about, memorizing a script or rules. It's about being real, bringing your true self to work and making a place where everyone feels safe, respected, and like they can do their best.
Exactly, and it's a journey, right?
Yeah.
Not a finish line. We're going to mess up along the way.
Oh, for sure. The important thing is to learn from those mess-ups, adjust, and keep trying to create a more human workplace.
So as we wrap up, I think it would be super helpful for our listener to have those key takeaways from Radical Candor. Could you boil it down to, say, 10 essential points?
Absolutely. Here are 10 big ideas from the book that can really change how you lead and work with your team. Number 1, care personally.
Okay.
Show genuine interest in your team as people, not just workers. Get to know their lives, their goals, what makes them tick.
Makes sense. What's number 2?
Challenge directly. Don't be afraid to give clear, specific feedback, both good and bad. Be straight up but kind. Focus on what they did and the impact, not on attacking them personally.
So be real but be nice.
Yeah.
Got it. Number 3.
Embrace those in-the-moment tips. Don't save everything for performance reviews. Offer guidance right away while it's fresh.
Makes sense. Strike while the iron's hot. What's next?
Master the art of listening. And I mean truly listening to get it, not just waiting to talk. Pay attention to their body language, ask questions to make sure you understand, and create a space where they feel safe sharing their honest thoughts, even the tough ones.
So deep listening. What's number 5?
Create a culture of debate. Encourage healthy disagreement, different points of view, challenge the ideas, not the person. Make it safe for people to speak their minds, even if they disagree.
Okay, so healthy debate. What's next?
Don't personalize. When giving feedback, focus on the issue, not the person. Be specific, offer clear examples, and give them a path to improve.
Okay, keep it objective. What else?
Align individual growth with team goals. Understand what people want to achieve and give them chances to develop that match both their goals and the team's needs.
So help them grow in a way that benefits everyone. Okay, what's next?
Don't be afraid to fire. If someone's not performing, address it quickly and with compassion. Putting it off just makes it worse. Handle letting people go with respect and make sure everything's clear.
Okay, tough, but necessary sometimes. What's number 9?
Be mindful of bias. We all have unconscious biases. Be aware of them, especially when giving feedback or making decisions about promotions. Push for a more inclusive and fair workplace for everyone.
So check yourself before you wreck yourself. And the last one.
Make it a habit. Radical candor isn't a one-time thing. It's an ongoing practice of communicating, connecting, and growing.
That's a great list. I think those 10 points really sum up the heart of radical candor and give a good roadmap for becoming a better, more caring leader.
I hope so. And to our listeners, take these ideas and try them out. See what works, what needs tweaking, and keep getting better.
Yeah, it's about figuring out what works best for you and your team. There's no single right way. Be thoughtful, be aware, and be committed to making a better workplace.
Exactly. It starts with a single conversation, a piece of feedback, a moment of connection.
So, to our listeners, thanks for diving deep with us into Radical Candor. Hope you got some good insights and are feeling pumped to put these ideas into practice. It's about caring personally, challenging directly, and creating a workplace where everyone feels seen, valued, and ready to thrive.
And remember, becoming a radically candid leader is a journey. Embrace the bumps, celebrate the wins, and never stop learning and growing.
Thanks for joining us.